Welcome, survivors, burnout community, and those just interested. It's Kelly Bupoltz, trainer, author, speaker, and your burnout prevention mentor. Burnout is not taboo. It's our reality in this chaotic, fast-paced world. But we're not going to let it drive the narrative to our stories. We're going to do something about it. So let's dig in. Three reasons why team energy is more important than time. As teams move from task-driven, time-driven to outcomes, you'll start to see the shift. You'll start to see the shift from disengagement to engagement. You'll start to see teams from exhausted to excellence, and you'll see teams start to adapt. That naturally they build agile environments because they're driven by energy. Now, the three things that we're going to go through are important because more time doesn't mean more outcomes. More time doesn't mean more resources. And I come from the manufacturing world where you could do more hours, more overtime, and get more output. But then do you know what happens to that operator when you have too much overtime? They're sick. They call in sick. They have plenty of money that they can not show up for work. You kind of have short-term gains for long-term pains because you rush to get ahead and then you exhausted your resources. And this often happens with overscheduling. This happens with people that have to push through a quarter, a long period of time. This is chronic stress. This is burnout. So when you can switch to team energy driving as the driving force versus time clocks, you can actually flip it to get out more. You can actually produce more by energy-driven teams. So let's go through the three. Time is fixed. Here's the first one. Time is fixed. You can't get more time. But energy is renewable. Energy is a resource that can go up and down. Energy you can optimize. So say I have 8 hours in a day. Okay, I can give you 8 hours of work based on whatever pace that I deem relevant for that day and based on what I think is priority for that day. But when I optimize time, I actually produce more because I'm not using my resource, my skill on waste, on rework, on ineffective pass-ups and chasing down information and things like that. I actually can produce more because it's outcome driven. It's not just noise. Right? When you get rid of the noise, when you get rid of the waste, you're actually working on value add activities. And that's the hard part is a lot of organizations can't identify the value add activities. So that's number one, is time is fixed. But energy, you can actually engage, renew, and then that's productivity optimization. Now, high energy can actually produce more. So that's number two. So when you have high energy teams, I'm not talking about like, I'm so excited, I'm on energy drinks. I'm talking about engaged, deep work, value add towards the outcomes that you want. That's high energy, right? They're all in. They can do more with less. They can adapt and still get that outcome. They can produce at a level that you didn't even think was obtainable. And I want to show you a kind of structure of a schedule that you can use to gain that high energy in teams without burning them out. Because we're not going to pile more into all that space that they just created. We're going to optimize what they're doing to value add activities. So when we look at a energy schedule, something that you can look at is focus in the morning. So right away, we like to put meetings in the morning to really get a pulse check on people, but really that should be in a system. I don't know why we are taking people's time when it's already in the system. If you don't have a system, contact me and I can give you some options based on your operational size to look into. But really, we need to give focus time so people can understand what is going on right now in your operation, especially people who have multi-shifts. So I came from a 24/7 operation. People will come in the morning, not even understand what went on in the last couple shifts. And then we would just be chasing our butt all day long. So when you give a focus point in the morning, you can block off time, set priorities for the day, and even work on initiatives to gain the outcome instead of just doing more activities in the morning. So focus. Then we go into a meeting, and this is communication outside of what's already in the system. So maybe this is where we need to pivot because we're not hitting our metrics. This is maybe dealing with some issues that we had and also celebrating our wins that we had from the previous night. This is communication between the two departments, between two people, between multiple people, in which we're moving things forward. We're not just regurgitating things that are already in the system. And then we can move to activities. So this is going through your emails. This is responding to things from the meeting. Again, working on and following up on your priorities. And then you reset. We need to take our lunch. Number one offender of not taking her lunch. And imagine that. My digestive system was the first thing to go in my burnout. So where are you going to put an intentional reset so you can regain that energy? Again, then you can start activities and end the day with focus so that you start the day tomorrow with that same energy. Now, when we don't allow intentional time to focus, intentional time for actual communication that matters, that's where we fall into these burnout cycles in which we drain the energy day after day after day. So Friday comes and people are just done. They're just done. And that's why you can't productivity optimize, because the energy is drained. When you talk about productivity optimization, we're not just talking about getting rid of noise and waste. We're talking about honoring people's energy. That means they need focus. They need deep work time. They need progress in their day instead of more to-dos. So high energy can do more with less. That's number 2. Number 3 is motivation creates momentum. Go check out my internal motivators video, and I'll link it after this. Everyone has a different internal motivator. And I'm not talking about money. I'm not talking about bonuses and benefits. I'm talking about natural motivation to act, natural motivation to do things or achieve those outcomes. Every human has that, regardless of the front that they're putting on. They might not even know it themselves. Go check out that video. I'm going to link at the end here. Teams want to perform, but we force them to perform. And they don't buy into the outcome because we haven't presented it in a purposeful way. We have presented it as the business wants to grow this much more percent, or we need to have this many more customers by the end of 2025. Super unmotivating. That means nothing. That means nothing to us. Now, if you want to link it back to, we want to do this much more clients so we can give back to the community this much more, that's purposeful. We want to make sure that we have work-life integration in our company. So our outcome this year is 4-day work week. Okay. We need to make sure our systems, our processes, our communication, our team collaboration is on point if we want a 4-day work week. All right. Do you see the purpose, right? Motivated. I want that. So I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to make sure I get along with Tony down the hallway, even though Tony sucks. I'm going to work on my communication style and my team collaboration with Tony, because we have to work with each other, and we won't get the 4-day work week if we don't work together. So Tony, me and you got some things to work out. Do you see the motivation, right? It's a purposeful outcome that we want to get to, so we have to do the things. So teams want to perform, but we force them. Shift the focus to that want through purposeful outcomes. The second part of this motivation that I want to talk about, and then go watch that other video, is engagement leads to retention. The reason why we have high turnover in a lot of organizations right now is you're making it easy to leave. They're not connected with other people. They're not having any kind of relationship with their teammates or their boss. The work, you're not improving the work environment. Change is happening all around them except for in your walls. Why would they stay? That organization over there, they're not only pay me more, but they do personal development. They do 4-day work weeks. We get unlimited PTO because that place is so functional. I don't have to beg for things. We have discussions often enough that it doesn't get that bad. Doesn't that sound like an awesome environment? That's because it's workforce energy management. Everyone knows the goals. They have great communication, team trust, and productivity optimization, or that great workflow to do all the things that top talent is searching for. So engagement leads to retention. versus turnover is just a time waster, right? In and out and train and in and out and train. It's exhausting. So there was a client that I actually just had this conversation with about motivation creates momentum, and to really focus money and resources on that, on your current retention activities such as training and development and leadership development. Please do leadership development because that trickle effect is huge. And they said, we just don't have a budget right now. And I said, okay, let's go calculate your turnover, because I knew that they had a lot of turnover. They had 40% turnover. And they said the average productivity curve is about 3 months. So that means that someone new to learn the role and actually start producing, not at a very high level, but at least producing, was about 3 months, so 90 days. Insane amount of money. So turnover costs was about $18,000 an operator. Plus that 90-day mark of all the people that have been training them, they didn't really calculate it out because they didn't know how many people were involved. So very messy onboarding, very messy training program. They just grab trainers whenever trainers are available, other operators. So they didn't have a very structured training plan, which is why operators were leaving. So when you talk about turnover time waster, that's a waste not only for all the recruitment, all the onboarding, all the training, but the people that were training them. What a waste. How demotivating. You spent all that overtime, or you pulled them off machines, or you pulled them out of the department from their own work to train this new hire that is most likely going to leave. So not super motivating for them, not motivating to continue being the trainer or the mentor to new hires. So do you see all the ways? So I said, what if you shifted all that money? So I estimated, based off of just our conversation, it was about $42,000 per person that they lost. Cost of recruitment, onboarding, and training in those 90 days. Based off of the conversation that we had, $42,000. So I said, what if we shift one of those turnover people, which they were having quite a bit, to a internal training budget, an internal engagement budget. So let's just say 40,000. Let's make it even. $40,000. Can you get that? We just showed everything that 2024 costed you in turnover. It was insane. Let's take 40,000. That's only one person, and let's fully invest in training. Training on systems, training on process, training on product, getting them out to conferences, training your leaders, complete overhaul. What if we did that? And it was interesting because they were apprehensive at first because it's a different way of thinking, but we're just wasting money. It's just noise. Turnover is just noise. And yes, it will still happen in the perfect environments because people change, environments change at home. Their spouse might move for a job, things like that, but make it hard for them to leave. The reason why we don't have motivation in organizations is because there's no momentum anymore to even try. Why try this helplessness state? So that's a big one. I know that's tip number 3 here to get you to shift from time to team energy, but that's a huge kicker. And I'll link the motivation video after this, because if there isn't motivation, you will have disengagement. If there's not motivation on your team, you're already losing productivity and you're going to have turnover, because why would anyone stick around? Huge factor in a company culture. So if you can move from the mindset that time is fixed, but energy is renewable, then you focus on productivity optimization. If you can focus on creating high energy and deep work focus environments, you will get teams that adapt and produce more. And if you can invest in actual retention tools, such as training your people through change, training your leaders to lead the change, then you gain natural momentum. And that's why team energy is more important than time.
I know you're not lazy. Most people in burnout are high performers, those serving others before themselves. Don't discount this step today, the action in which you focus on your self-growth. Piecing together the puzzle is half the journey. Rediscovering yourself, energy, and establishing new habits is the other. Do not underestimate the untapped inner strength inside you. Explore more resources on my website to move from zombie mode back to liveliness. See you soon.